but
Actually,
not as bad as Poppy's. So
yeah.
what was his name?
Well, on his birth certificate, it was Everett Howard. On his baptismal, it was Horton George, but he took the name Horton George. Actually, George. That's what he wound up with, and he didn't find out until their 25th anniversary when they were going to Italy and had to get a passport. And that's when he found out that wasn't, Horton George was not his name. So that was,
So they could get the marriage annulled if you wanted to, because
yeah.
she married somebody.
Well, another thing I wanted to say is Aunt Rosie. Said Rosa, but actually it was Rosina. That's what it's on
Rosina.
the things that I have, the census, and it was Rosina. So it's, I don't know. It's whatever you felt that day to pick. That's what the
Yeah. So it reminds me of I don't know, there's some novels that are like this. The novels, like I have a really hard time with all the old Russian novels because they have
yes.
their given name and their common name and their Christian name, and this is the same person. Every person has 3 to 5 names.
Another thing with a lot of those, they don't use, well, they just stick vowels in weird places. Like that's
Right.
it's like, why is that number there? They have like a bunch of consonants since their whole name. It's like, okay, how do you pronounce
Right, right, right.
it? Yeah,
Yeah. Well, some of that has to do with the language
right,
changing.
right. It's yeah. So
So, yeah, so Grandma Lena was Jewish, but Eastern European, like
yes,
Yiddish type,
yeah. Like
probably.
sometimes, like she said, she was Lithuanian and Austrian.
Okay.
That's who, yeah,
I remember hearing how every time I talked to her, it was something
yeah,
different.
yeah. But that's what we finally settled on.
Right. So, I think part of it was because right around that time, just before and during World War One, all of those countries' names were changing.
Yeah,
There was a lot of movement in those.
right, right. I agree with that. That's what I
Southern
always
clubs.
thought too. Why she changed everything.
Right, right. So she didn't change. She just didn't know what the name of it was.
What day is this?
The land didn't change. The name did.
Yeah. Yeah. So they had 5 boys and 2 girls, and my Aunt Arlene was mentally challenged. So so and she adored my father. Because he was a good person. He was a lot of fun, and he always protected his brothers and sisters and stuff because he's the
Yeah, yeah.
oldest. And
So yeah, Poppy was the oldest, and who came next?
Uncle Bobby.
Bobby. That's right. And then
I think it was Ronnie, then Artie, and no, Rudy was
no, I thought
older. Rudy
Uncle
was
Artie
older.
was the youngest.
Well, Uncle Butch was the youngest. That I know.
Butch is the youngest. Okay.
And his
And then
name is Aunt Arlene was well, she was the youngest girl. I think she was the youngest anyway, but I get everybody confused. It's just too many. Like, Aunt Arlene was older. She was like about the third in the lineup from after Uncle Bobby. I think she was about there.
so the girls are Arlene and Aunt
Iris.
Iris.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what are you saying? Uncle Butch. So Uncle Butch, his real name is what?
Raymond.
Raymond. Right.
But that
And
was
who
his
else is there?
nickname.
Butch is his nickname. So George is Rupert. Is his real name.
No, Everett.
And then Bobby was Bobby. Uncle Bobby was
Yes,
Robert. Oh, okay. Okay. And then Uncle Rudy is
Rudolph.
Rudolph,
Right. And
and
Uncle
he's
Ronnie.
named after their father.
Yeah. There was something
And
else.
Uncle Ronnie,
Uncle Ronnie was Ronald.
Ronald.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
The only one that went into the service was Uncle Artie. He was out of his family. That's, because that was after the war and stuff.
Yeah, was he during the Korean War? Or was he too young for that?
I think it was, I don't think so. I think he was in between the two wars there. I don't think there was a war at that point.
Do you know what branch he went into?
He was in Navy.
He was in the Navy.
Navy. And he was a cook in the Navy.
And then he owned a 7-Eleven. I remember that when I'm growing up.
Yeah, that was many years before they moved to Vegas, and he had a bagel store there.
That was after, but before that, he had the 7-Eleven on Long Island.
Yeah.
'Cause I remember he would fall asleep everywhere. Like some type of narcolepsy.
Well, before that, my uncles owned their business.
Yeah,
Bobby and Uncle Ronnie owned a business. Uncle Audie worked for him, and Dad worked for them too later on and stuff. And he could,
Poppy.
Daddy would say he'd open a closet door, and then Uncle Audie be sleeping, standing up, because he could sleep anywhere.
So they had a construction company,
Yes. Yeah.
and Poppy was their foreman.
Yes. Yeah, that was in the later years. Yeah. Because they owned the gas station for a while.
Right.
Uncle Hank owned the gas station, got them all into, not them, but Poppy and Connie had a gas station together, and all your uncles from Daddy's side worked for them at one point.
Yeah. I remember going to Aunt Rosie's, and we would play hide and seek and hide in the towers of, um, tires.
Oh,
Uncle Hank, he had all those extra
yes,
stuff
right.
around.
That's it. Yeah, yeah. We
Yeah.
always had a lot of fun, and we usually celebrated the Christmas with Aunt Rosie and everything. Well, after we a little later, we moved onto March Court, and they bought a house, and then of course we bought a house on March Court.
Right. That's why Andy said we couldn't get rid of you. You kept following us everywhere you went.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So I always felt like I had five sisters instead of four, because we were always together and stuff.
Right. It was oh, it's funny, Mom. It's just a small world. When I met Nikki's mom,
Hmm.
she went to Newfield High School
Really?
and graduated around that same time, and she knew you guys as the Perez sisters.
Ah,
Like, "Oh, yeah, I knew all of them." So it
yeah,
was funny.
yeah. Because they were older. Laureen and Elaine were older than me. Mary Ann was older too, but it was only a year. So,
Right.
yeah.
'Cause Aunt Rosie was married and had 2 kids, and then her husband passed away. And then she married Uncle Hank, who was one of Poppy's friends already,
No,
right?
no, no.
They weren't friends yet?
Actually, they told the story that Uncle Hank at the time was in the Navy, and a bunch of his
Mhm.
friends were, out, on leave, whatever, and they started following Gigi and her girlfriends home, and they followed
Right.
them to the house, and they were trying to get rid of them, and then Aunt Rosie's hanging out the window. This is after she, was a widow, and she's like, "Come on in," and she invited them into the house and everything. These people, complete strangers.
They've been
Yeah,
trying to get rid of them.
yeah, and they wound up getting married,
Was
couple a
it
year
Fleet
later.
Week?
Say that again?
Was it Fleet Week?
Yeah,
All
possibly.
the Navy sailors?
Yeah, yes. So, yeah, so they got married just like a year before Poppy, I guess, or maybe it was 2 years before Poppy and Gigi.
Okay. And they had 2 girls as well, so
Yeah,
there
2 girls.
4 girls for Aunt Rosie.
Right, right. And Miriam was born, like, well, I told you when my grandmother passed. That was like, but before that, and the wedding itself, Aunt Rosie was pregnant with me at that time. That's why I
Wait,
kind of remember those things.
Aunt Rosie was never pregnant with you, Mom.
Yeah, you're right. Afraid of
What is it you're trying to say?
Marianne, yeah.
Yeah, favorite. And then were they pregnant at the same time at all? Was there any crossover?
Yeah.
How much
No.
older is she than you?
She's like a year and a half. Because she was born in
Okay.
May, I was born like the following August. Maria,
Right.
Maria is 6 months older than me. My cousin Maria. And my cousin Patty is 6 months younger than me.
Okay. So there's like a whole bunch of boys, and then there's a whole pile of girl grandbabies all within a year or 2.
Yeah. Well, I had like, I don't know how many girl cousins. Don't know off the top of my head, but I know I only had three boy cousins on my mother's side. Was mostly all girls. and everybody had girls and stuff. But
It's the opposite for me, not really, but I have a lot more boy cousins than I
right,
have girl
you
cousins,
do.
big family.
But on my father's side, there's, I think it's more even, the girls and the boy, the ratio. But, I like I said, I didn't count them offhand what they were. But, so like I said, I was the oldest on my father's side, and then Uncle Bobby married Aunt Lucy, and she had Martha already, and Martha was older than me, so she became the oldest in the family, of
Right.
the girls and stuff like that. And she was actually born a day before Mary Ann, so they're like
Okay.
the same age. Yeah, I'm still in contact with Martha too, but I don't really talk, on Facebook sometimes with my other cousins, but mostly with Martha. Like she came out when I was in the hospital to see me and stuff like that. She lives in Manhattan. She's lived there forever in a apartment there, a loft. She has a loft.
I've
I haven't either, but Diane's been there, but I never went there for some reason. I'm not a Manhattan
all I
person.
remember is, grandma used to have the holidays, and was it Thanksgiving that Martha would always bring
Yeah, bring
some
someone
of
with us, someone she met off the street or whatever, some homeless person or whatever. Yeah, that was Martha.
she was a flight attendant, and she would have random people stay in her place
Yeah.
when she was gone and stuff, it was kinda crazy.
Mm. Yeah, she had a really good heart. Big heart. Uh,
So so you moved out to Long Island when you were 5, so that's pretty young,
yeah.
and Aunt
You
Di
gonna
would have
tell the
been
story? She was 2.
2. What, when you wrote her name on the
Yes, I wrote her name on the ceiling when she was 2. I blamed it on her. It's like,
which house were you in?
the one on Bicycle Path?
Okay, so yeah, in Selden,
Right.
but not the one you're in now. And what did you use to write on the ceiling with?
I think it was lipstick, I don't know. I think it was lipstick, I can't remember. But
It was probably really easy to get off.
I guess it wasn't too
How did
bright.
you get to the ceiling?
I stood
What?
up on the couch and wrote her name. I stood up on the couch.
Well, that's a tall couch. How tall were you? You're not even that tall now.
It was taller than I shrunk. No, uh,
I just never understood how you could have reached the ceiling.
well, if you sit on the top of it on I don't know. I don't know. All I know is I did it. I don't know how or why, but
You probably stood on a dresser? I have no
it
idea
was
how
in the
you
living room. It was
it's a
a
tall
regular
backed couch.
couch. If you stand on the back, I remember standing on the back of the couch. I guess I don't know. I don't know.
Maybe. I guess so.
Oh, but that was we we still shared the same room, me and Aunt Di and stuff. But we had the spare room, and that was our playroom, and we were allowed to do anything in there because we scribbled on the walls, paint, did all kinds of crazy things there until Uncle Butch moved in. Of course, he lived with us for about a year. He,
Oh, I didn't know that.
yeah, he went to Newfield. You see, I don't know what the story was, why maybe grandma couldn't take care of him, I don't know. But, he was a
Probably
football
getting into
player.
trouble in Brooklyn, huh?
Yeah, he might have. But he was a football player, and he was very good on, like, the Newfield team. I do remember that. And we had, like, this dollhouse Poppy and his brothers had built for us in the backyard. It was huge. It was like, I don't and, so, we got to play in there a lot and stuff. Had, I don't think it didn't have running water or anything like that, but it had all kinds of things in there that, it was a lot of fun. We'd make, mushroom soups and different things like that, and it was, and then
Mud
like a
pies.
yeah, mud pies. And like I said, we were just right around the corner from Aunt Rosie at that time, and, we'd be back and forth.
So you guys could just walk back and forth on the street?
Yeah, yeah. Because back then, It was a lot different than today and stuff. And Aunt Rosie had this hammock. I always remember this hammock. It was huge. There'd be like 10 of us on there, and we, make believe we were in the Amazon, and there was alligators trying to get us, and it was, we did crazy things. One time they had a party there, and it was the Battle of New Orleans was the song that was popular, and I was acting it out and stuff. I was always acting things out and everything. That everybody's laughing at me, but I'm running around and shooting guns, and then I'm pushing. Most people have an imaginary friend. Well, I had about 10 there. I'm pushing. Oh, is this fast enough? I don't remember doing that all the time, but on that occasion, I remember having a lot of friends that I was pushing and talking to and everything. So I don't know. Is that strange? Imaginary friend, but
You had an imaginary community?
yes. And actually, that's when we lived there. That's when Mr. Nolan, who was your teacher in fourth grade, lived across the street and stuff. So and we used to hang out with him and his um, older sister. I don't remember her name. And his mom was really a sweet lady. I don't know. Trying to think of other things. I can't. I don't know. It just was always a party. Oh, I do remember. Like I said, they were always playing pinochle at the house because that's what my grandfather liked. So everybody would play pinochle with him. And I remember some days we'd be like, "Please, can you give us dinner?" Because oh, wait a minute, we're playing right now. Yeah.
And they played cards all the way through. I remember them playing cards.
Yes. Oh, I used to love watching them when they were older too. We'd be so funny. They'd be fighting and arguing, and it's like nobody. Of course, they were older, and half of them were deaf, and they're like, "What?" So it was fun watching them. And then the families were more together. In the end, everybody became because everybody, all my father's brothers would come out to our house in the summer and and have a lot of fun. It would be like all the beds all over again at our house and stuff with all my uncles would be
Right.
staying. I don't remember the girls so much, but at least the boys were always there.
So, I remember the Aunt Rosie story about was it just the 4 girls in the back, or were all 6 of you in the back?
I think all six of us were in the back of the car. Yeah. When she made the
And what
turn.
happened?
She made the turn in the car, and Denise fell out of the car, and we're telling her to
The
stop.
door opened.
Yeah, the door wasn't shut properly, I suppose. Not that you and Rob know about that, but,
That door didn't shut properly.
we're telling her, "Stop the car, Denise fell out of the," and she's like, "Ah, leave me, well, stop it."
She's
So she
telling me,
finally listened to us and stopped, and poor Denise.
"Racket back there."
"What's going on? Yeah, stop it. What are you talking about?" So and we used to go to Ronkonkoma, the Lake Ronkonkoma, in the summer, almost every day. That was where we went to hang out and stuff. Because nobody had pools back then. And we had a little tiny pool, that my uncles always went in and destroyed. But so that's where we spent most of the summers. In the older years.
So you went to Lake Ronkonkoma, but people had to work.
I'm talking about the
Poppy always
summer.
worked.
I'm talking about in the summer.
So who didn't they still have to work?
But yeah, they did. The guys did. The women didn't back then. They didn't work. It wasn't until later that they started working and stuff. And mostly at
Okay.
restaurants and things. Um,
Yeah.
and things like
I
that.
remember Gigi worked at the Pizza Hut and kept getting fired because she tried to season the sauce.